support at home, but collapsing oil revenue combined with a series of Venezuela does not have enough food to feed its 30 million residents. It also can't guarantee them electricity or medical supplies in its hospitals. It's a country staring down social upheaval, political unrest, and bordering on economic collapse. Multiple states of emergency have been declared. So how did this happen to the country with the largest oil reserves in the world? For years, subsidized oil bought Venezuela's government influence abroad and popular support at home. But collapsing oil revenue combined with a series of government missteps have many fingers pointing squarely at the unpopular President Nicolas Maduro. There have been a number of calls for a referendum on him. Polls suggest that if electoral officials allowed such a vote, he'd lose by a wide margin. Here's the situation. Venezuela's current crisis started long before Maduro with his predecessor, the late President Hugo Chavez. Chavez revolutionized Venezuelan politics with a left-wing ideology called Chavismo and fiery anti-US rhetoric, saying of George W. Bush,
"Yesterday the devil came here, and it smells of sulfur still today."
While in power, Chavez nationalized thousands of Venezuelan companies he said were not functioning in the public interest and focused all of the country's resources on one thing: producing oil. This meant that almost everything Venezuela consumed besides oil needed to be imported, and Chavez borrowed a lot of foreign money to fund it all. While oil prices were high, it worked. Then, in 2013, the first domino fell. Chavez died. Maduro took over for Chavez, and in 2014, the second domino fell. The price of oil started to crumble. Revenue from oil accounts for 95% of Venezuela's export earnings, and when prices for the commodity began plummeting, Venezuela found itself suddenly short on cash. The government responded by slashing imports like basic groceries and medical supplies to avoid defaulting on its foreign debt. It also started printing money, causing inflation, which has surged into the triple digits without an end in sight. The economic freefall has exacerbated social problems. The country's murder rate is surpassed only by Honduras. Citizens wait for hours to get simple household goods, and Venezuela's misery index is the highest in the world. It's gotten so bad that food shortages have prompted major riots, and President Maduro is bearing the brunt of the blame. Demonstrations have been held across the country calling for Maduro's ouster. Maduro says it's nothing more than a coup attempt. Now here's the argument. Maduro's critics say that he has botched his presidency so badly he should resign immediately. However, some say the alternative isn't much better. The opposition alliance is pushing for new elections, but it's still made up of more than a dozen parties with no unified plan to fix the economy and no single leader to do it. With oil prices unlikely to head back to previous highs, neither Maduro nor the opposition has a roadmap to fix the crisis.
Venezuela's poor rebel, roiling Maduro's socialist strongholds. By Fabiola Zerpa and Andrew Rosati. July 3, 2017, 5 a.m. EDT. In Caracas, the rich and poor are suddenly less divided. For most of Venezuela's two-decade socialist experiment, the city's wealthier, whiter east has been the hotbed of anti-government sentiment. Now, noisy protests are erupting in poorer but calmer western neighborhoods that were strongholds for embattled President Nicolas Maduro as crime explodes and medicine and food are scarce and expensive. Riot police clash with residents of La Vega neighborhood in Caracas. Source, AFP via Getty Images. Residents in neighborhoods like La Candelaria, blocks from the presidential Miraflores Palace, erect barricades and yell slogans against Maduro's government, banging pots and pans from inside their homes. They're increasingly demanding a change in government, infuriated by mismanagement and Maduro's proposed constituent assembly to rewrite the constitution and perhaps seize total control. Everyone protests, without differences, because the hunger of the stomach and the hunger for democracy have been united, said Carlos Julio Rojas, a La Candelaria activist who has been menaced by pro-government militants called colectivos. He said that opposition activists have been joined at protests by government supporters, public employees, housewives, and the unemployed. Crumbling foundation. The spread of unrest across the nation's capital poses a new and heightened threat to a regime under siege. Anti-government protesters have taken to the streets of Caracas and other major cities for 3 months denouncing Maduro for wrecking the economy and establishing what they call a dictatorship. Almost 80 people have died in near-daily clashes between protesters and security forces. Venezuelans last mounted extended anti-government protests in 2014, demanding Maduro's ouster, yet ultimately they fizzled with nothing to show. This time, the opposition has gained significant international support. And inside the nation, key defections from the ruling party and the West Side unrest show that Maduro may be losing elements of the base that has sustained the socialist ideology in the face of poverty and condemnation. Caracas's relatively prosperous East Side, where protesters rally almost daily, is home to half a dozen shopping malls, a small financial district and upper-middle-class enclaves. The West Side is older, grittier, poorer and more dangerous. It encompasses the historic center where the presidential palace and government ministries lie, as well as large working-class neighborhoods and the bulk of the government housing stock. It also is the location of many of the city's shantytown barrios. In some areas, members of colectivos loiter to monitor opposition leaders' movements. In others, they have seized control of buildings, harassing and threatening residents if they don't follow government policies. But while mistrust persists among West Side residents about the opposition's motives and their future under a new government, anger has often overcome doubt and fear. Jean Carlos Gomez, 35, a mango seller in the working-class neighborhood of La Vega, said his home has been without propane for 7 months and his family has resorted to using firewood to cook. Here there are no banners or marches, he said. People protest when there are no other options. It's madness. For Maduro, it's a worrisome trend. Even as the overall popularity of his predecessor and mentor Hugo Chavez sank in the final years of his life, the country's poor largely remained fervently loyal to him. Yet Maduro is even falling out of favor with that base as infrastructure fails and the oil-rich economy plunges into chaos. Nighttime protests have taken place the past few weeks in West Side and downtown areas including La Vega, San Martin, Mamira, Caracuello, and La Candelaria. It's a blind rage, where they need a form to channel, said Alejandro Velasco, a professor of Latin American studies at New York University who has written about Venezuela's shantytowns. The government has played its last hand. Services are shaky in Caracas, particularly in the slums that surround the capital. Water pipes go dry for days at a time, trash sits rotting and lights go out due to an aging power grid. The flashpoint has been the failure of the neighborhood food program. Deliveries are sporadic and reports of corruption are rampant. It takes us by surprise when it comes, said Miss Lady Gonzalez, a 21-year-old mother of 2 who cleans homes to get by. Barefooted children played on the cement floor of the wooden shack in the hillside Mamira slum, where she lives with her sister and niece. Years ago, the barrio boasted government food stores filled with subsidized staples. Before you had to wait for hours, but you'd find something, Gonzalez said. Last year, I even waited in line pregnant. Now there is nothing. Only the bags.
Hey Charlotte County, this is Charlotte County COPWATCH, and I wanted to explain what fair use is. You can use pieces of news articles if you're doing it for news reporting, you have commentary, and you're doing it for education purposes. So that's what fair use is, as you can see right here. Another reason why I wanted to make this video is to let you know I have just joined with Patreon. A nice thing with Patreon, I make no money on YouTube. They took the money away years ago, and so this is another way to give, and it's a nice thing too because you can give monthly. You can give $1, $5, $10, whatever. I do 4 to 5 hours a day on trying to wake the sheep up on how corrupt it is and different ways that you can fight the corruption. So Patreon is a way that you can do it, and then of course the old way is still there. Donate to Charlotte County COPWATCH with PayPal or credit card. So keep that in mind. 4 to 5 hours a day. I make no money, but the corruption happened to me and I'm sick of it, so I'm trying to wake people up. but my wife would love it if some, you know, if we could get some help out there. There's 47,000 subscribers. Just think if each one of you subscribers just gave a, let's say, actually, yes, $1 a month. 47,000 subscribers gave $1 a month. That would be awesome. That's not going to happen. But anyways, that would be great if it did happen. But, you know, do the math in your head. Just think about it. Like I said, 4 to 5 hours a day. I get no money from YouTube. YouTube has gone nuts. You can't do anything anymore. They're taking the money away everywhere. So these are a couple different ways that you can still help out with all this time that I put in. And as you know, I'm in a special situation where, you know, at least I can do it. You know, 4 to 5 hours a day. We have a cleaning company during the day. That's what allows me to do this, and we're debt-free. So this is my hobby. I don't go fishing and all that other crap. I try to save the world. So help me out to make the wife happy, man. In fact, if you guys did give $1 a day, and there was 47,000 of you, and you did it, and each of you gave $1, and that was every month, oh my God, yes, I could quit. I could start suing them. Another idea, too, that we have is, you know, if I got, you know, some funds, we could actually contact everyone that has been ticketed and or arrested and put in jail and start sending them postcards to let them know we're here and to see if everything went all right, and if it didn't, find out their story. So we could even do more investigations and more lawsuits. Lawsuits take money. So just think about that. You know, 47,000 of you so far right now. You know, $1 a day. I mean, $1 a month on Patreon, or $5 a month Patreon, 10, 20, whatever. Just do the math in your head. Help out. This is a lot of work every single day. Thanks.